Howdy gamers, and welcome back to another episode of Together We Design, the video series all about graphic design created by designers for designers. I'm your host Anarchy, and on today's episode we're going to talk inspiration. We're going to be talking about how you can gather inspiration to create works of art, as well as how to combat the feeling of copying. Along with that, we're also going to be taking a look at two ways you can gather inspiration for your art and designs, including Behance and Pinterest. So, what does it mean to have inspiration? Inspiration is defined as the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. In the case of being a designer being inspired basically means that you have an idea for a piece in your old noggin here. You know what you want to create. Or this could also be knowing you want to create something, whether this is a poster or a header or whatever. Just knowing you want to do it, even if you don't know what it is just yet or how you're going to do it. That is being inspired. This can be brought on by many different things. In general, this can include hearing a song or going through an experience or really anything that has an effect on you personally. In an esports way, this could be your favorite player popping off in a game or a special event happening, such as a major or a grand finals going on, or even just because you see gamers being gamers. One main thing that stands out in artistic terms for getting inspired is seeing art. A lot of times when people see other art pieces, it makes them want to create something too, and this goes for a lot of other real life things as well. It's like when another little kid sees a kid with a lollipop. Often the little kid without the lollipop wants the lollipop that the other kid has. And it's like the same thing in art. Speaking for myself personally, even if I'm turbo burnt out, seeing my artist and designer friends pop off on the timeline is enough for me to hop out of whatever hole I've gotten myself into and want to design myself. And this could just be because I see the art itself, or I like a particular style that the piece is in, and for me that really hits the nail on the head. I get inspired the most when I see a specific style. You guys know I'm privy to grunge. I really love grunge. So anytime I see something grungy, I just yes! Yes! Another thing that also really gets me inspired is physically watching art. Like people make art. My career as it stands exists because I've been watching my good friend and Triumph alumni Antoine Please stream for about a year and a half now. And not only have I learned a stupid amount of things from him technically, but he's never failed to make me want to bust open Photoshop and really go to town. Never. I'd have to really be in my bag for it to not make my creative spirit just flow. But anyway, with inspiration comes the dreaded word copying. It's one thing to draw inspiration from another artist's work, but it's an entirely different thing to copy their work. To copy something is defined as to make a similar, identical version of, to reproduce, or to imitate the style or behavior of something. Copying can come in many different forms. One form of copying could of course be recreating a graphic pixel for pixel, or as close as you can get it. Others could be doing a similar graphic in a near similar style, or doing a graphic in a style that imitates the original one, in a way that's more similar or than different. This could be similar compositions and choices of design elements versus a similar composition with vastly different styles or different elements used. Now, in a sense, copying certain things is actually really good. We as humans learn to do things by copying and imitating things. When we're children, we learn to talk by repeating what our parents say to us. And the same can be said for things like learning how to walk, learning how to eat, and other things like that. That's why we have role models, because we learn from imitating others, and this can be said from art too. As I said previously, I became and still do become stupidly inspired when I see other art or see people create art. This may mean I go off and make my own pieces just because what I see, it resonates with me and I want to do my own thing. But this doesn't mean I'm going to go off and make my own of whatever that person made and then post it on the timeline and say that it's mine and solely mine, and I didn't take any inspiration from anyone else at all. So, say my fellow Triumph designer Zaction Overwatch makes a very cool header for, say, Chipsa on the Fusion. Seeing it and becoming inspired, there are three different things that I could possibly do. So one would be to say that I'm gonna go make my own Twitter header for another player on a different team, or something. So say I do KSP on the Valiant, I make him a header. Option 2 would be that I would make a header for another Philly player for like Carpe or Sato, but maybe not imitate the same style. I just decide I want to do a header for a Fusion player. 3 would be I make another header for Chipsa. This could be in a different style or even in a similar style if I decide I'm ballsy enough to do so. Which one of these would you call copying? 1, 2, or 3? So if you picked 3, pat yourself on the back because you're correct. That is the textbook definition of copying. 1 would be defined earlier as our inspiration, and 2 would also be a form of inspiration, if a little bit close to the original, but I wouldn't say that that's copying. Honestly, I see this happen a lot more when it comes to like artists, like digital artists and people who like draw things. There have been a lot of scandalous things go on because of things like tracing pictures or tracing art, which if you're gonna like post it on TL, like get paid for it, I really don't think that's the move. But anyway, my personal take on copying is that like other things in life, you learn by imitation. So in the early stages of being an artist, or you're testing the waters of a new style or something like that, I would say it's kind of okay to copy. However, this is like a really fine line of copying. I would only say you're okay to copy something if you're not going to post it on social media, and or be asked to do so, and give credit to the person who made the original design or who you based your design off of. And hell, I'd even do that if I happen to do something like example 2 in our earlier hypothetical situation. Otherwise, if you're a decent designer and you've established your own style and stuff that you like, I kind of don't have a tolerance for copying things. It's like if I can personally, like, there's a couple things I've seen on the timeline where I can tell, like, if I can tell that you've based this off of something and you don't mention it or don't say anything about it, I feel like that's kind of a problem. And by now you should be able to like create something that's unique to you. And if you can't do that, then I think you should grind and keep grinding till you can create something that's unique to you. Okay, anyway, so you realize you might do this. How do you not copy things? The number one thing that you can do to not copy is to not constantly look at inspiration while you're in the process of creating something. I know I'm personally like very guilty of this. I tend to look at inspiration a lot while I'm creating things, and I know this seems kind of ass backwards, but I can attest to it personally. When you're constantly looking at something like a tutorial or a specific piece you're drawing inspiration from while you're making your own creative piece, I guarantee you 90% of the time, if you were to make the same thing, but instead you go off memory or a general idea of what you want to do, the second one that you're not looking at inspiration for constantly will turn out much better than the first one. For a personal story here, as a kid I used to enjoy making weapon camos on Call of Duty Black Ops 3 a lot. And one time when everyone was going through that galaxy phase, everything was galaxy, I wanted a galaxy camo for the SMG that I used all the time. I followed the tutorial for it layer for layer, and I made it, and it turned out fine. A while later, I started grinding ARs, and I wanted the same camo for the AR that I did, but this time instead of looking at the tutorial, I made it off of memory. And I remember being like super wowed because the one that I did off tutorial looked so much better than the original one did, and it's not just because I made it, it physically looked way better. So with that is going to be the end of our episode here. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to see the next episode coming at you soon. Thank you, and goodbye.